Hope you had a wonderful Sunday, wonderful weekend, and getting prepared for the week ahead. This is one of those black screen videos that I promised a friend who said she had trouble sleeping, and she asked me to put my voice to video and upload it. And I decided that I would do that at this time. And I'm going to be reading from the Bible, from the book of Ruth. Chapter 1. Now it came to pass, in the days when the judges ruled, that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to dwell in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahalan and Chilion, Euphrates of Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelt there for about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died. So the woman survived her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Therefore she went out from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband. So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, Surely we will return with you to your people. And Naomi said, Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband tonight and should also bear sons, would you wait for them till they were grown? Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law. But Ruth clung to her, and she said, Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth says, Entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her. Now the 2 of them went until they came to Bethlehem. And it happened, when they had come to Bethlehem, that all the city was excited because of them. And the women said, Is this Naomi? And she said to them, Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. Now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Now there was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth, of the family of Elimelech. His name was Boaz. So Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Please let me go to the field and glean heads of grain after him, in whose sight I may find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." Then she left, and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. When she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech, now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered him, "The Lord be with you." Then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" So the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered and said, "It is the young Moabitess woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab." And she said, "Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." So she came and has continued from morning until now, though she rested a little in the house. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "You will listen, my daughter, will you not? Do not go to glean in another field, no, go from here, but stay close by my young women. Let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Have I not commanded the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink from what the young men have drawn." So she fell to her face, bowed down to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" And Boaz answered and said to her, "It has been fully reported to me all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and your mother and the land of your birth, and have come to a people whom you did not know before. The Lord will repay your work, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge." Then she said, "Let me find favor in your sight, my lord, for you have comforted me, and have spoken kindly to your maidservant, though I am not like one of your maidservants." Now Boaz said to her at mealtime, "Come here, and eat of the bread, and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar." So she sat beside the reapers, and he passed parched grain to her, and she ate and was satisfied, and kept some back. When she rose up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. Also, let some grain fall from the bundles purposely for her. Leave it that she may glean, and do not rebuke her for this." So she gleaned in the field until evening, and beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. Then she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. So she brought out and gave to her what she had kept back of the bread after she had been satisfied. And her mother-in-law said to her, "Where have you gleaned today, and where did you work? Blessed be the one who took notice of you." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, "The name with whom I work today is Boaz." Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be the name of the Lord, for he has not forsaken his kindness to the living and the dead." And Naomi said to her, "This man is a relation of ours, one of our close relatives." Ruth the Moabitess said, "He said unto me, 'You shall stay close by my men until they have finished all the harvest.'" And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, and people do not meet you in any other field." So she stayed close by the young women of Boaz to glean until the end of the harvest. And she dealt well with her mother-in-law. So we can stop there. Ruth is absolutely one of my most favorite books to read of the Bible. It strikes me that Naomi gives that speech when she says, "I went out full and now I come back empty. So don't call me Naomi, which is kind of difficult for me to say this evening. Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, which means emptiness and bitterness, because God has dealt harshly with me. The two daughters-in-law, one was Orpah, and apparently Oprah Winfrey was, I think, is supposed to be named after that person, but it got spelled wrong and was transposed to Oprah, but in the book of the Bible it's Orpah. And Ruth, both were daughter-in-laws, which were essentially daughters to Ruth, who lost their husbands as well. So they're all widows. But Ruth wanted to just go home and just kind of hide and be alone and mourn. And also, she wanted to go because she had heard that their hometown was getting bread in the middle of a famine. And she wanted the young ladies to go and try to find husbands. And she allowed and encouraged Orpah to go, and she did. But Ruth didn't. The words of "I'll go as where you go," and that whole speech that she made is often on wedding invitations, in the context of romantic interactions. But actually, it was a daughter-in-law speaking to her mother-in-law that she would go with her, and she wanted to stay with her. It's amazing to me how many different forms love can take. When I was younger, love meant one thing: a man, a boyfriend. I wanted that sort of love. I had the love of my parents and family. I didn't have to want for that, and I feel blessed for that. Some people don't. They get it later on in their lives through families that God has brought into their lives, and they meet them later and become like family. And I have people like that in my life right now. However, as you grow, you learn so much more about the different types of love. I've always had love for animals. All my life we've had animals, it was mainly dogs. But I have a deep and abiding care and love for animals. It's something that is just part of me. And then I learned about agape, and that kind of love that's for fellow man, that is not based in any eros, eroticism, sensuality, or sexuality. It is truly, truly, truly caring for your fellow man, woman in this world. It develops over time and in different ways for people. Even as a child, many children feel that sort of caring, but different traumas and experiences can make us not want to feel that way about people we don't really know. You're not really as open. You dim the light, in other words, because sometimes, honestly, the light is attracting to some dark sorts of people. It's well known that narcissists are quite drawn to people of light, not because of the light, but because they can get from the light. They may be able to learn some manipulations from the light. Even though the light is manipulating, they want to essentially replace the person of light, so they start drawing off of them until there's nothing left. Been there, done that. And I know how Ruth feels there, where I've never lost a husband by death. I am divorced. So I know what that feels like. And you feel like something that we've talked about before, just an emptiness. And what do I do now? Rebuilding your life, or whether you had a breakup with a friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You still have that moment where you're like, okay, how do I go forward? What am I going to do? in this particular area. I mean, we keep going to work and we keep going to school if that's what we're doing. But on other levels, we're trying to figure out exactly what we want to do. So it really strikes me how the daughter-in-law really, really spoke in a word that in many people's lives would only be spoken by a romantic partner. But I feel that way about many people in my life that have nothing to do with being a romantic partner. It is a very wonderful feeling to be able to experience a person that's true, a person that is willing to go through the ups and downs with you. Seeing and hearing about Ruth going out and putting back some bread from the table for later, knowing that Boaz most likely saw her, thinking, oh, that's really sweet, right? And then he goes and tells his workers, look, let her glean, even among the sheaves. So for anyone who doesn't know, gleaning would essentially be picking up the pieces of the barley that have been harvested by the men, and some of it falls to the ground. Well, Boaz is literally telling them, leave some on the ground for her to glean. The care that he showed her also was amazing. So rather than looking at the story, simply on its face, even on its face is an amazing story, I tend to look at it as has been explained to me by several preachers or pastors or teachers, and then it's allegorical for God's love for us. And that the redemption factor, it doesn't matter how down you are, how empty Naomi felt. Ruth out here, essentially working on her hands and knees to pick up barley, and then taking bread from the table to take home for Ruth. Doesn't matter. God still redeemed them. He said, these are mine. Thank you very much. I'll make provision of people, places, and things. And that, what we talked about last time, the favor. There's that favor again. They got favor. They came back, and here they are. And in what many would consider not a favorable situation, that God shone his light upon the two women and made provision for them. And that is what I feel when I read this story. It's one of the most interesting stories to me. Two of them that I really, really like in the Bible are Ruth and Esther. And if I read from the Bible, most likely I will read from Ruth or Esther and then there forward. But I wanted to touch base with you all. I will continue this reading. Read it yourself if you have time. It's not a very long story, but it's a beautiful story. And I'll say goodbye now. You all have a blessed evening. I love you. I miss you. I'm glad to be able to touch base with you this evening. Thank you for putting up for me while I'm reading. It is really a joy to be amongst family and be able to just be myself. And, okay, that's all. Have a good night. Bye.